storm today. Winds gusted over 100 kilometers an hour. In some areas saw more than 40 centimeters of snow. 50,000 people across the region lost power. 15,000 of those were on Prince Edward Island, where 70 trees between Kensington and Malpeque were knocked over by the storm. Some people could be without power until the weekend. But it was New Brunswick that saw some of the heaviest snowfall. And our Shelley Steeves was right in the thick of it. Here's a look at what went on during the height of the storm.
To be today here in Moncton, you look around, we don't see a whole lot of people out here because the city is virtually shut down. Many businesses have closed, schools are closed throughout most of New Brunswick as well as here in Moncton. And there have been flight cancellations and delays at the Moncton International Airport as well. If you're doing any kind of traveling, by all means, call ahead. There are restrictions on the Confederation Bridge linking New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Ferry delays, all kinds of travel delays today. So if you're heading anywhere, definitely call ahead. Now, leading into this afternoon, there is a risk of storm surge along the coast of New Brunswick, along the Northumberland Strait and even up the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Okay, now we've made our way to the Shediac area. We're in Pointe du Chien, and this storm and the winds are really getting going. As you can see, the waves and the surf is just crashing in and along the coast. I'm actually getting pelted with seawater as I'm standing here. We've talked to some residents of the area. Some are without power for obvious reasons, and some have already experienced localized flooding in and around their properties as well.
Well, I'm right in back of the Parley Beach parking lot, and this morning when I got up, all around the side of my street to the back of the parking lot, it was just flooding, and it was bad enough because my car was actually stuck on the other side, and I didn't realize just how deep that water was, but it was more than knee-deep.
For the Weather Network, I'm Shelley Steeves along the coast of Shediac.
Good job, Shelley. The storm is now moving out, but light snow will continue to fall across the Maritimes this evening. Well, it's been another day of squalls in southern Ontario. Bands of snow were once again streaming off the southern end of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. London is continuing to get hit by some of the worst of it. Highways are snow-covered and slushy. Heavy snow has also blanketed the prairies. In Alberta, it made a mess for drivers. Snow and ice caused road closures between Banff and Jasper. In Saskatchewan, 15 centimeters has fallen since yesterday. And in Manitoba, travel advisories were issued this morning on highways across the south because of poor conditions and limited visibility. Buses were canceled. Some schools were closed in the southwest. And here's a bit of good timing. The Manitoba government has announced an additional $2.3 million to expand snow clearing, sanding, and road information reports on major highways. A night shift will be added as soon as additional staff are hired and trained. Well, heavy rain in British Columbia is continuing to push up water levels on rivers across the province. A flood watch is in place for Howe Sound, Greater Vancouver, and the Lower Fraser Valley. Yesterday, roads began flooding and some people were dealing with wet basements. Meanwhile, a flood warning is in place for major rivers on Vancouver Island, and the Ministry of Environment is warning people to stay away from lakes and rivers.
It seems like I shouldn't have to say this, but when the river's that high, stay away from the tops of the banks of the creeks and rivers. And yet every year people are drawn to the banks of the rivers because it's kind of exciting to watch. There can be large trees and boulders actually going right down the riverbed because of the force of the water.
In Nanaimo, the runoff has caused high turbidity levels in the city's water supply. That means the water is cloudy and people need to boil their water before drinking it. The boil water advisory was issued this morning and will remain in effect until further notice. Port Alberni residents need to boil their water as well. The city's reservoir has been affected by turbidity levels since yesterday afternoon. Well, heavy snow is still a concern for travelers across British Columbia. It's been steadily coating roads at higher elevations since the weekend. Blowing snow is creating whiteouts on Highway 16 around Prince George. Meanwhile, snow and freezing rain are making routes through the southern interior slippery, and travel advisories are in place along Highways 8 and 12. Well, that's a look at Weather Network News for this half hour. Stay tuned for your local forecast.